We're here at Emarsys Revolution in London, and I'm here with a colleague of mine, Ben Norton, Global Head of Strategic Services. Thanks for being here, Ben.
It's a pleasure, Lindsay. Thank you for asking me.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we've got some exciting stuff happening here at Revolution right now, some big announcements. What stands out most to you?
I mean, I think the way the whole day's been run, and we were talking about this earlier, so the fact that we have looked from a really broad picture with Joe Malone coming down into the AI case. I think when you've got Ashwin talking about individual use cases to make AI work, and we think about how we work with clients to find that one example that will either drive revenue, increase the lifetime value, whatever it is, you see a guy, sort of god of AI, make the same point. And you kind of realize that you're not going crazy. We're kind of doing the right thing. So then we think about Brendan talking about broadly the same thing. Right? So you've got Brendan saying to us that what we need to do is not just focus blindly on the low-hanging fruit, but go for that one use case that works. And then we come down to product. And what the team that I run, the only reason we exist is to sit in that gap that we've got between the product that we're selling, its capabilities, and then the customer's operational reality, their ability to use it. So whether it's agency capability, content availability, whatever, what we've done with the platform now is put that content in. I think that's exciting, but I think something that's been missed as we've been looking at that, which is that at the same time as populating that framework, we're creating a platform where people can contribute. So we just had a session with a customer, global, and we brought up with them the fact that they can contribute to that framework as well. So it's not just that we're populating it with tactics, we're populating it with strategies and dashboards, but that if they find something that works for them, they can put that in. And I think for me, that's the most exciting thing about it becoming a platform, because what you see in most cases is, although we're a SaaS company, every customer has to start from scratch. So it's that. But that idea of having more of a sort of democracy where they can all get in together, we're saying to those customers, look, if something worked and you want to share it, let's put it up. I mean, all of that, for me, just removes that friction, that massive issue that the whole industry has with adoption. So, yeah, I think that's pretty exciting.
I think so too, because otherwise you're given, as a marketer, and I've experienced this firsthand. I mean, you're so excited, and you're given technology that you believe is going to do all these things for you. And as marketers, we're under so much pressure and feeling so much pain to deliver to higher and higher expectations, both internally and externally to our customers, and ROI, and just thing upon thing upon thing. And then you get this tool that you think is, some might think it's a silver bullet, others, at best you think it's a silver bullet, at worst you think it's just going to help you out, and it's just a box, right? It's just an empty box that really is limited by what you put into it. And we think it's time to say no to that empty box and to start giving marketers more. It's also not limited by what we're providing in that box. It's also saying, like, it's also flexible to what you want to do with it and what tactics you want to bring to the table, right? So.
For me, it's exciting. I mean, I've not just been at Emarsys. I'm a Salesforce refugee, as you know. So we're 6 years into the marketing cloud revolution, if we can sort of borrow that word again. We're seeing customers come back for the third time. So they've bought once, they bought the dream once, it didn't really happen. Maybe that first time they didn't buy sufficient services to drive that content properly. Second time, but they blame the tech anyway. Second time they come out, they buy again, a different dream from a different vendor perhaps, the same net result. And then we're seeing them come for a third time. What my team sees is that they're now putting aside that professional services budget, because they realize what's going to work. For me, this next evolution of what we've done is say, okay, you've worked out you need agency services, strategic services, whatever. Let's put it in the platform. The other thing it addresses is this massive gap that we have today. So we have this huge gap between the guys using the platform and the guys calling out the strategy. And I think that's That's probably unique to retail, where you tend to get this sort of chasm between the guys up here saying, I just want more money, and these guys down the bottom saying, like, where do we get the next bucket of revenue from? So I think it solves for that too, because you just get that little bit of continuity between the goal, the strategy, the tactics. So yeah, it's exciting.
And you said you feel like it's unique to retail. Maybe it's exacerbated in retail, but I think that I think that gap is there across the board. I mean, I've felt it as a marketer too, where every single person involved has different, is looking at different things, right? There's somebody executing, there's somebody looking at, the really, really big picture, and I think that it is exciting that there's a different view, literally and figuratively, for kind of each of the player in the game.
I mean, it's very logical, it follows a very obvious structure. It's going to be very interesting to see as we get more customers onto the platform. How does it work in the real world? I know that there's a lot of willingness from Emarsys as a business to flex to that feedback. I'm excited to see how it goes.
Yeah, I am too. And one thing that when I first saw the changes that were coming to our platform, the first thing that went through my mind was like, look, we're getting back to marketing 101, right? Whereas it's become commonplace for a lot of marketers to purchase technology first and then back themselves into a strategy to make the technology work. And what we all learned, marketing 101, is you start first with objectives. You got to figure out your goals first, and then you figure out a strategy to make them happen. Then you figure out the tactics that you can execute to achieve those goals. And the technology is like the underpinning of it all that should be helping you do it, not the other way around. And so I love, as a marketer, the fact that we are getting back to the basics and helping marketers do what we should have been doing all along, but in a whole new way. Right?
Yeah, and listen, I think all the vendors, we all got excited with the amount of channels we could push across. We all got excited about the automation, orchestration we could do. And my job for the last 5 years has been going in front of customers and saying, look, I know that you saw this 99 stage automation that you thought would unlock all this revenue for you, but let's just look at your ability to actually execute. Let's look at that 4-stage welcome, that cross-sell, upsell. So in a sense, I mean, I agree with you, we're going back to basics, but it's the same as the point I made at the top, which is that, yes, we are pre-populating a platform. But at the same time as doing that, we're opening that architecture up to say to people, look, contribute as well.
Absolutely. So anything else that you find exciting that's coming our way here at Emarsys?
I mean, for me, as a business, we're growing really quickly. So, I mean, I came on board January last year. I've seen a lot change. I've seen the type of customer that we're in front of change. Historically, our sweet spot, our ICP, to use our own internal language, is retail e-commerce. I mean, we're good at that, right? We're deadly at that. But what we're beginning to see now is we're seeing CPG come into the game, which I've seen for a few years outside of Emarsys. But what you've got is guys like KitchenAid, who have a history of not necessarily touching the customer directly, going through a retail channel, and then now being forced to, making the decision to sell directly. That's really exciting for me, because we've got marketers that come from a brand marketing background that we're now having to teach to go direct. So that's really, really interesting.
It's exciting.
And then there's a bunch of other things. I mean, we're working with a subscription model right now. How do we dashboard that? And I've invited, we were talking before this session, I've invited some contacts from my pre-Emarsys days, none of whom are retailers, who have all cancelled meetings to come back for day 2, day 3, because what they're seeing is that there's a platform that can actually execute. It's not too high-level use cases, and they're looking at it saying, actually, I can find one use case in my business where you could execute. So I think the future's bright. I mean, it's exciting for me as a consultant, running a team of consultants. We're always looking for new gaps we can fill between our platform and our customers' ability to use it. I can see a lot of potential outside of retail and e-com as we populate the platform. So yeah, it's exciting.
That is exciting. That is exciting. So what else about Revolution has stood out to you?
Venue's great. Day one speakers. Listen, I'm an undisclosed middle age, and I've been through a ton of events, and I know that I think everybody finds them tiring. We were just talking about, how tiring it is. Sometimes they're tiring in a bad way.
Yeah.
And sometimes,
We've all been to those.
yeah, right. As customers and as vendors.
Yeah.
And sometimes they're tiring just because there's a lot of pulls on your attention. That's certainly the case for me. I've been so, impressed with our own event. I keep talking about day one, how we've lowered people into the idea. I haven't made it to any of the breakout sessions today. There's 3 of my retained customers in those breakouts. Haven't seen any of them.
Mm-hmm. I've heard good things.
Yeah, I mean, I've got my phones blowing up with messages from existing customers, from prospects saying how good it's been, how transparent it's been. I've never been the guy to say I've loved an event when I haven't. You know me well enough. I'm fairly transparent, but I think it's been a really strong event, and it's given people sets of actions they can actually do, rather than that peachy high-level customer journey that they think, do you know what, that's never going to happen.
Yeah, where you leave inspired, and then you get back home and you're like, wait, I don't actually have anything to take action on.
Yeah, it's that nice warm fuzzy feeling while you're being pitched,
Yeah.
and then as you go to bed, you wake up the next day, and the stardust starts to fall off you, and you just think, that's never going to happen.
Yeah, back to status quo.
I don't have the budget. I don't have the data. So I think you need to do a bit of that. The customer wants to look at themselves to aspire to, but you've got to make the investment in helping them get there, right?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the time, certainly a lot of the vendors that I've worked with as a consultant pre my Salesforce days, of course, we're selling diet pills, right? Mm-hmm. And I think what we've got here is a business that is giving you personal training. They're looking at your diet, but it's also because we know the vertical, right? So as soon as we're too generic, saying we are marketing automation across all things consumer,
because it's all the same, no matter what. Marketing automation is marketing automation is marketing automation. Yeah.
And I've heard that from a number of customers who've bought very strong tech stacks, but what they're hearing back from that vendor is, listen, we've got best practice, but it's kind of best practice in that general area, whereas we're a bit more pointed, and we can give that deep domain expertise that the others kind of want to be able to, and we don't have to busk or BS that. We can just get to the point and say, look, we're doing this globally. Here's what we're doing in APAC. Here's what we're doing in North America. Here's what we're doing in EMEA. And that's powerful, I think.
Absolutely. So thinking outside of Revolution and Emarsys a little bit, something we always ask when you're on the show here is future of marketing. What's something that you see headed our way as marketers, generally speaking, that either concerns you or excites you?
So listen, it's a really easy one for me. I mean, there's a long list, but I mean, I sit in a global role which has delightful components and shockingly not so delightful components. I think the most interesting thing for me is how do we deal with the mobile-only APAC situation, where we've got what we do at the moment is we broadcast. So we look for large segments of people, and it can be 10, it can be 20, it can be 30. What we're seeing in Asia is WeChat coming up. We're seeing one-to-one messages. Now, we are working towards that as a vendor. We want to be able to individualize our communication, but to be able to send one message just to one person. We're already seeing that requirement in Asia. So I think for me, the most enjoyable part of my role is being able to divide the world up into 3, which clearly you can.
Yep.
But what you've then got is you've got Asia being mobile only. You've got Europe, EMEA, if you like, 50-some countries. None of us talk to each other. We all talk different languages. Challenges in there. A
little bit complicated.
And then you've got your hometown, where the revenues are huge. There's a big drive. The data is immense. So bringing that all together to deliver all that global insight to a single local customer, that's exciting. I really enjoy that.
Yeah. That's incredible. That's exciting. So, all right, before we let you go, we always subject our guests to rapid fire questions.
Go on.
Okay, so first and foremost, if you had to summarize marketing today in one word, what would it be?
Seriously, I've looked at your email so many times. It says this, and that's
so many words.
Do you know, I have nothing for you. I'm going to go with avocado.
That's one of my favorite foods, so I'll take it.
I think, it's quite difficult to get into. It's risky. You could cut yourself. You've got to get that stone out.
Crazy,
and then there's that gamble. Is it ripe? Is it not?
You never know. Sometimes
I'm sticking with avocado. That's what you can have.
I love it.
Cool.
Our colleagues in Indianapolis are going to be laughing.
Good. Avocado.
Avocado. Oh yeah. Oh yes. Let me do that for you. Okay. How about something that you wish marketers knew, but you're pretty sure they don't?
Ooh, I wish they knew how to be a little bit more ballsy internally when they're pitching for that budget. I think a lot of the stuff that we do is helping them just to be confident in the insight that they're giving and that they're getting. Because when you have those two conversations, you go to exec level, have a conversation, you go to user level, have that conversation. The disconnect's considerable, but the knowledge is there.
Yeah.
So I think for me, it's that idea of, listen guys, you want to get back to doing the marketing, you want to get back to the strategy, the creative, we're working on that, but also you need to just have a bit more faith internally to say, look, this is what marketing automation is, this is the revenue it can unlock, this is more than revenue, this is lifetime value and retention. So I would say about, they need to get braver about owning that retention piece internally because it's growing as a strategitic function, right?
Absolutely, and I think it goes back to something we talk about a lot, which is the amount of pressure that marketers are under. And I think that there's fear, right? There's you're putting a lot on the line when you move into something new, whatever that something new is. And I think that you said it's confidence, it's faith, it's getting out there and then saying, okay, if you believe in this thing, let's do it.
Yeah, and it's also having that confidence to hold that exec back that says, I want the revenue today at the expense of retention tomorrow. And I just, that again is, I think we'll see that improving as retention automation becomes more mature as a concept. But I see that a lot. I see those users that are successful at that have managed to tell that story well, but there's still a way to go, I think.
I like it. Okay, and last but not least, what's some content that you've consumed recently that you would recommend to our audience, whether it's a book or a podcast or newsletter or blog? Or
So I consume a lot. If I think about the thing that's probably had the biggest impact on me lately, 2 books. So one is Collaborative Intelligence, which was recommended to me by our head of data strategy, which I kind of thought would be a geek out nightmare, but actually has been incredibly powerful. And the other one is The Power of Habit, which does a big case study on targets, behavioral segmentation, and a bit more worky. But 2 books that I've really enjoyed.
I love it. Okay. And last but not least, where can our audience find you for more information, for more Ben Norton?
I'm a Skype man.
Okay.
Which there's a degree of shame with that because since they put Cortana in, it's become slightly surreal inside Skype. But that's where you get me. Got it. Okay. Well, Ben, thank you so much for being here. Pleasure. At Revolution, at your hometown of London, and here on Marketer and Machine. Thanks, Lindsay. Thank you.